Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Board of Directors of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District. Roll call, please.
Sure. Director Arthur Perry.
Here.
Director Michael Schaefer.
Here.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer.
Here.
Vice President Robert Uten. Sorry, he's muted and he is present. And President James Ferryman.
Present.
Thank you.
Do we have any announcements or late communications?
Yes, Mr. President, we did receive written communications from Mr. Mosier. Those written communications were presented to you earlier today, and we'll be discussing some of those comments as that agenda is discussed.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, this is Mike. I have a question for Scott real quick on that. Hey, Scott, all these comments that Mr. Mosier gives us, how do we archive those?
I'm going to turn that over to our district clerk, Nolani Minway.
I should have asked Nolani. I apologize.
Thank you, Director Schaefer. Actually, we do have an archive of all public comments that do come in. We have been including them with the agenda packet as they've been received, and then we also archive them with the rest of our packets in our files here.
I know it's different because usually we have spoken comments, so we are accommodating. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Are there any other public that the president would like to speak to them? If not, we'll move along. Approve present or consent calendar.
Mr. President, Arlene, do we have ceremonial matters first, or Arlene? I'm not Arlene, I'm sorry. Nolani, do we have ceremonial matters first? I don't have the agenda in front of me.
Sorry, we have a ceremonial matters first, yes. So the first.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Do we do the pledge?
okay, we're now going to have for the person. Who exactly is it?
Sure, Mr. President. It's I'm gonna introduce you to Chris Newton, who he is the Vice President of the Santa Ana River Basin section of the California Water Environment Association, and he's also I think Operations Superintendent at South Coast Water District, and he's going to present an award that the district received from SARBS for our CEPA, our California Environment Protection Academy. So I think, Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hey, good evening. Thank you, Scott. Good evening, Mr. President and directors. Like Scott said, I'm actually the president of SARBS this year, and happy to be here to present you guys with your second place award for the Community Engagement and Outreach Project of the Year for your CEPA, Citizens Environmental Protection Academy. Obviously, we would have liked to have done this as is tradition at our annual banquet, but unfortunately, this was the only way that we could do it. I know Scott's a big supporter of SARBS, and you have an employee, Steve Cano, who is the past president of SARBS. So we're really happy to get the application and happy to present you guys with your awards. So on behalf of SARBS, I just wanted to say congratulations on the second place finish for your outreach program. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Congratulations. Any comments?
I have
Yes.
a comment. I would like to see something
Yes.
of this kind of presentation in the newspaper, in the Daily
Go ahead.
Pilot. I think it would be great if we could, send something to the Daily Pilot showing that we got this award, because
Sure.
we're the best kept secret. It seems like, and we need to get out more, and we need to show all the different awards if we were to line them all up, but at least we could do this one.
Yes, definitely. Madam Secretary, we definitely posted it on social media about the award, but I will meet with our staff and strategize other avenues to get this announcement out to the public. But good point taken. So
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to make an announcement. You know, I'm Bob Uten. I'm past president of SARBS and past president of CDBA. That may have been, Chris, before you were born.
Hey, I would like to make a comment, Scott. We only got second place. Let's do better next year and get first place, okay?
we'll try. Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. We're thrilled to be able to offer our support. And I did fail to bring us to the Pledge of Allegiance, which is just a detail, but I think that we ought to do that at the moment. So follow me in the honor of our flag. I
Pledge allegiance.
pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the
to
republic,
the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all. Bob, would you do the invocation?
Yes, thank you, President Ferryman. Please bow your heads and follow along with me. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Let's see.
So, Mr. President, we have one more ceremonial matters. First, if Chris is still there, I'd like to thank Chris for the award and all the great work him and Steve Connell's been doing with SARBS. And so thank you very much for the award. The second announcement I wanted to mention to the board is I'm pleased to announce that the district received the Certificate of Excellence from the GFOA, the Government Finance Office Association, for our PAFR, the Popular Annual Financial Report. And if you're not familiar with a PAFR, it's basically, it takes the CAFR, which is called the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, which is our audit, and it takes that large document that has a lot of numbers and can be very intimidating to understand. And it takes all that information and condenses it into a smaller document for maybe a dozen pages where it uses a lot of graphs and bars and kind of illustrates how much we spent the past year. This is the fourth time we received this award, and so I want to thank our finance manager, Caitlin Tran, and her staff, Lou Tran, and Autumn Alvarez for all the hard work they did on the PAFR. Not very many public organizations produce a PAFR, which is surprising to me because it's a really great way to promote transparency and openness. It allows the public to really understand how much money their government agency has spent the past year. Very few special districts even do PAFR. So I'm very proud of our staff and our district for receiving this award. So again, I want to announce that to the board and to the public. This is for our Certificate of Excellence in the PAFR. So again, great job, Caitlin and her staff.
Thank you very much. Let's move along.
Mr. President, if you don't mind, there was a request for public comment from Mr. Mosher, if he would like to do so, and if you'd entertain that, please.
Okay, Jim?
Yes, thank you, President Ferryman, members of the board. I believe this is the moment on the agenda for comments on non-agenda items. I'm not totally sure what the protocol is to make comments on the agenda items as they come up, but I guess we'll learn. And I might point out, I myself will be leaving the meeting, should it run that long, at 5:30 to attend by Zoom a City Aviation Committee meeting. The non-agenda comment I wanted to make is that in reviewing the minutes of your last meeting, I noticed that I apparently submitted a written comment in connection with an item you had reviewing your public outreach efforts. And I called attention to what I thought was a relatively low level of citizen involvement with the district elections. And at this meeting, I wanted to point out that I think the district website contributes to that sense of disinterest in our elections. After the district went to all the trouble of instituting by division elections, I don't think any visitor to our website can tell which of those divisions are currently up for election this fall, let alone who the candidates might be in those elections. The only information is a direction to go visit the Orange County Registrar's website. And I would have to say, finding that information from the Orange County Registrar's website is a considerable challenge in itself. This is not atypical of special districts not to trumpet its elections on its website, but I don't see what harm it would do. And I think it would increase the impression of transparency that the district wants to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. President, if I can address Mr. Mosier's comments. His comments were well taken. We do remember his comments the last time he mentioned about our website and how it relates to the elections. Nolani and I, our district clerk, have met and talked about Mr. Mosier's comments, and we are in the process of updating our website to include more information about the elections.
Scott, I have a question. This is Mike. I have a question then. If we, I understand delineating our districts and the fact that there's elections, but I think we need to be careful that if we give too much attention on our website to the elections, one candidate or another could dispute the fact that the other candidate got more attention than they did. So please be careful.
Yes.
With disseminating information. I don't mind saying, you know, District 1 or whatever, and according to the Orange County Registrar of Voters, here's the candidates. But I think it should stop at that.
Yes.
Okay.
Good point. Yes, everyone has to be treated equally. Yes, absolutely correct. We will do that. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are we to the consent calendar?
I think we're on consent calendar right now, Mr. President, so we need to take action on the consent calendar.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Move for approval of the calendar as presented.
I'll second it.
The moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now,
Nolan, can you do me a favor? Can you put the agenda on so everyone can see that, please? There you go. Thank you. So,
Yeah,
Mr.
that
President, we're on
helps.
item number F1, adopt resolution number 2020-932, which is endorsing candidacy of Secretary Arlene Schaefer for the position of first vice president of the Independent Special Districts of Orange County's Executive Committee.
Move it.
Second.
the moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nolan, I believe, don't we have to take a roll call on this one? Nolani?
No, sir, since all members have voted in favor of and there's none opposed, there's no need for the roll call vote.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Consent calendar.
We're on item
Yeah.
F2, Mr. President, and each of these items will need to be taken individually for adoption, please.
Before, and Mr. President, before the board considers adopting each of these items, I do want to make a few comments. This is also the one where Mr. Mosier made some comments, particularly on the new Board of Directors handbook. And one thing I do want to have a discussion, and also Alan Burns. Is Alan on now, Nolani? Is Alan here?
Yes, he is.
Okay, good. So what we'd like to discuss with you this is the Board of Directors Procedures Handbook. On page 4 is the description of how to place the item on the agenda. And at your study session, the question was asked by the board, is this consistent with the operations code? And the answer is yes, it is consistent with the operations code. However, I do have one question I want to present to the board. It's also raised by Mr. Mosier. And that is on page 4 of the handbook, we do say that in order for a member of the public to request to place an item on the agenda, that we require 14 working days advance notice. Well, that's about 3 weeks if you think about it. And so as we just want to I just want to clarify from the board, is that, are you comfortable with the working days, or do you want calendar days, or do you want just 2 weeks, which would be like nine working days? I would like to see some clarification from the board. If you're okay with that, fine. Or if you want it to be shorter, like a calendar days or nine days, what's the board preference?
I think the 9 days is a good idea, because
Scott,
14 days is too far out.
Scott and President Ferryman, would it be appropriate to handle the comments with each item? Because we haven't, the first item is the operations code, and I think the item Scott's talking about is the last item in the handbook.
Sure, if you want, that's fine, Alan. Let's go down that way. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let's go ahead and do that, Alan. Why don't you address that?
I believe that's the way to go. Alan,
First item would be adopting the ordinance.
Did we have any comments from the public? Scott?
Yeah, Mr. Mosher had some comments on the operations code. I'm trying to pull that up. Alan, do you have those with you, Mr. Mosher's comments?
Yes, I do. We are on adopting the operations code right now. That's the matter that's before the board.
Yes.
Okay.
And Mr. President, Mr. Mosher does have his hand raised to make comments.
anybody have any comments? Or
Mr. Mosher has a comment.
Mr. Mosher, yes.
Yeah, thank you, President Ferryman and members of the board. The main comment I would want to make, if my written ones were not clear, I think the district needs clarity at some point as to whether this operations code it is adopting is the district's laws or is just a compilation of the laws that the district has adopted. In cities like Newport Beach and Costa Mesa, the code is the law and it's modified by adopting ordinances. This code has the strange thing in it that it says it's not repealing any of the ordinances. So it's not clear when you adopt an ordinance, does it stay in effect forever? How does that work? And that's my main philosophical problem I have with the operations code.
Mr. President, I do have all of the Mr. Mosher's comments, and I am prepared to go through them with you if you would indulge me.
yes, I think we would.
Thanks. I think the first thing was okay. There was a question before that, and it was about whether the general manager can issue administrative policies. I think I'll skip the minor ones and just skip to the larger comments. Except the one thing he provides there is that the manager doesn't need the authority to re-adopt. He doesn't have to have the board re-adopt the policies because he has the authority to issue or modify his policies unless they modify compensation. And that is not correct because that statement contains a proviso in it. And a proviso is a qualification. It's a statutory rule of interpretation. So there's actually two tests that have to be made before the general manager is authorized to issue an administrative policy. The first is it must be a minor provision, a minor matter. And secondly, if it's a minor matter, he can do it unless it modifies compensation. So there's actually two criteria there. So basically can't make a major change even if it doesn't involve compensation. And secondly, he can't make a change if it does include compensation. So it reads correctly the way it reads, and what we're doing is appropriate the way it's worded. With the operations code, I think Mr. Mosher's comments are, somewhat deserving of discussion. An operations code is a compilation of your ordinances. It is a codification of your ordinances. And we do adopt the operations code to supersede the previous operations code. But we did put a provision in there that doesn't specifically repeal any previous ordinance, which does sound odd. But what you have to remember is that we do have ordinances that are not codified, such as just last month, you adopted one that sent the new rates to the assessor. So that's an uncodified ordinance. We're not trying to repeal that one, but the one code does supersede the next code. And it is a codification of the ordinances we did, and it is a useful reference. And I don't think, although I think Mr. Mosher's comments, I respect his opinions, I don't think you have a big issue there. Let's see, I think maybe that's the last comment until the handbook. Maybe all the rest are in the handbook. I'll reserve those questions for the handbook unless you had any further questions about the operations code.
I had a question. On the operations code, do we have to indicate every 5 years that we check it again, or, go over it, or every 10 years, or when needed? To me, there has to be a clause of something in there.
I think this is, you get points with your insurance authority, maybe. I think maybe Scott should be the one who answers that question.
Yeah, there's no law that says we have to update our codes every so many years. We do it because we want to continue being a district of distinction with the Special District Leadership Foundation, and that's I believe every 2 years. And so that's why we review it. Like, I think, or is it every 2 or 3 years? Whenever it's time for our to recertify our district of distinction, it's a time we review our operations code and our policy. So that's why we do it.
So should we indicate something of the sort, like every 2 years, 3 years, or whatever you're saying? Or do you just leave it blank and go with it?
Well, we know we have to do it. I mean, we know that's the board has given the staff's direction to become a district of distinction, and we want to keep that level, continue keeping that level. So in order to maintain that distinction, we always have to, when we're up for recertification, we have to review our policies and codes. It could be, if you want us to put some language in there, say every X amount of years we can review it. Sure, it doesn't.
You could just say it's needed.
It's not needed, but if it's something you want to do it,
Okay.
you can.
Okay. Anyway, just a thought.
Anybody else have a question or comment?
Yes, Mr. Mosher has his hand raised, Mr. President.
Mr. Mosher?
Mr. Mosher, you're going to need to unmute yourself. I'm sorry.
Did it. Thank you. Thank you, President Furman. The remaining comment I wanted to make is I would respectfully request that if the board is adopting a revised operations code tonight, that the revised version include notations showing which sections of the code are being revised by the ordinance that you're adopting tonight. Professional codifiers do that so that the public reading the code knows what the origin of each section was. You have the markup showing which sections have been changed, and it would be easy to add the notation as they would do, showing that they have been amended by tonight's ordinance, whatever its number is. Thank you.
Nolani, do you already do that?
Yes, we do that.
Thank you. We don't use a professional code. Nolani is our professional codification service.
You probably didn't know that, but. Well, does anybody want to?
I'll make a motion that we approve the adoption of the operations code as presented.
Second. Mike, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your comments.
So Alan, do you want to talk about Mr. Mosher's comments on the handbook?
Sure. Did you want to do the other two items first? We have a resolution for the,
Yes, so
Why don't we do it
now we need to do the resolution on the employee handbook, but I think Mr. Mosher had some comments on that too.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it that way if that's okay.
Sorry, I have none. I've actually not read either the
Okay.
employee handbook or the administrative policy.
Okay,
I'll move for approval of the resolution number 2020-933, approving the employee handbook.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have another action to be taken.
yes, Mr. President, it's resolution number 2020-934, revising the administrative policies in its entirely.
I'll move that approval.
I'll second.
Been moved
Were there
and
any
seconded.
comments from Mr. Mosher?
No, sir.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Is that all for the attorney?
are we did the handbook now?
Now we're, yes, Alan, now we're at the Board of Directors Procedures Handbook.
Okay.
So this one, Mr. Mosher did have some comments on.
Yeah, and if I could proceed on, I do have Mr. Mosher's comments, and he raises a very good point. It is whether or not you consider your study sessions to be a special meeting or a regular meeting. I had always considered that your regular meeting was the one you call the regular meeting, and the special meeting was your study session. And for a time, that was set at different times, and it was always meant to be when you studied a matter, or sometimes it was when you had to do something on short notice, like a closed session or something that required action. More recently, you have established that the time for the special meeting is, for the study session is always on the same Tuesday. And Mr. Mosher raises the point that you've now turned your special meeting into a regular meeting. So you now have two regular meetings, your regular meeting that you call a regular meeting, and a study session that is no longer a special meeting, but a regular meeting. Now, this can be whatever you want it to be. And you could also just choose to make sure you give 72 hours notice whenever you can. So this is really a matter for your comfort level and what you want to do. But I think you should be clear as to whether you consider it a regular meeting or a special meeting, so that we can make sure we follow the Brown Act and are in compliance with the law.
Mr. Chair, can I say
Yes.
something?
Marlene.
You know,
Yes,
study
go ahead.
session to me was always a study session, and we could never make a final motion on it. We took it to the public hearing, which was the last public hearing. Special meetings we would call, and that was very, special, and it was the kind where you could vote on, because that is a special meeting that goes down as a regular meeting. That was my opinion. Now, if it's different, I'm surprised.
I guess
Well,
I really believe
legally-
that it is a regular meeting. And in fact, if for emergency purposes or timing purposes, we can actually take action at the study session. I always considered it a regular meeting, almost like or in lieu of second board meeting.
Although we didn't, as a rule, we didn't vote during
Yeah,
the meeting.
That's
can't
true,
vote.
but we can if we need to.
You have.
Yeah,
We have maybe once or twice, but not very often.
No, true.
True.
Not often, but you have.
Or is the benefit that we're getting out of this special meeting and calling it that, is it onerous for us to do that, or is it something that we can do with?
Yeah, basically you give up 2 days of notice that you'd have to prepare an agenda item for. So that's the only thing you're giving up. But it does give you extra flexibility. So it's really a board call on this, unless Scott
Yeah.
has some input.
well, let me add one more thing. The meeting is a Tuesday at 9:30. And if we only have 24 hours notice, staff would have to post it before 9:30 Monday morning. They've almost always, well, traditionally, they've always published it on Friday or given us, the 72 hours notice.
Yeah.
Well, what's the will of the action here?
I just don't
I
like this.
personally think it's worked out fine.
Yeah, I
I
like,
personally think it's worked out fine.
yeah, I like the way
And
we,
that, I didn't hear that.
Arlene?
oh, I was saying, I like the way we do it with the study session because it gives us an opportunity to understand it better. If someone's coming before us, just to know what they're doing. And then at the next meeting, voting on the process. But, that.
Yeah, I
think-
would, I believe all that, and that doesn't have to change. Whether we call it a regular meeting or a special meeting. I don't believe.
I think that we post it 72 hours in advance to cover ourselves, make sure the public knows what's happening. Every
Yeah.
study session we have, we post it 72 hours in advance.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the input we'd want from the board is to give us clarity as to whether you consider it and whether it should be a special meeting or whether it's a regular meeting. That's the two legal distinctions. We can still make it a study session and do all of that, but we need to know by your direction, we intend it to be a regular meeting and we intend for you to give 72 hours notice. And then if we have to do it, a special meeting on 24 hours notice, we can do a third meeting that month.
Yeah,
If
that's
it-
probably-
if it
I
has
think
to
we
be
just, I think we just continue it as a regular meeting. That seems to be the consensus. I mean,
Yeah.
special meeting takes on a whole different aura for me, and I would
Yeah.
just assume it as a regular meeting.
I guess I was the one out of step with everyone then, because I always considered it was a special meeting. But apparently we have been providing 72 hours notice and we've treated it like a regular meeting. So it is, the board desires that it be a regular meeting. So if that's where the board's going, we'll make it a regular study session meeting.
I don't see where it's been objectionable or a problem for us to deal with. I mean, it's actually, helped us along the way a few times,
Mhm.
But, I mean, it's not life or death either way, I don't think, in this case, but, if it's not broken, it's not, don't fix it.
Hey, President Jim, can I ask Nolani a question? Nolani,
Yes, sir.
have we been posting it 72 hours in advance for the study session?
Yes, we have been posting it as a regular meeting. So 72 hours has been the standard.
Mhm.
I'd say we continue to do that. And if
Yeah.
something comes up that we need to vote on for an emergency situation, we have the authority to do that.
Right.
Yes,
I
and you could even do a special meeting the same day as your regular study session meeting, and you could have two different notices. One would follow the other. So I guess it's not a big concern.
No, but at least it lets us know that we can vote on items if needed.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, you could either way, really. It was just the board's preference that study session was a time when you did not take action, but there's no requirement that you can't, except if you're making a vote on an executive's compensation. That's the only thing you cannot do in a special meeting.
Right.
So is everybody in favor of the status quo, or should
Yeah.
somebody want to make a new motion?
And then the status quo will be, this will be, your study session will be a regular meeting, parentheses, study session.
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have to vote on this or?
No, we're getting direction on what we need to change on the handbook,
Okay,
so,
well, we have consensus.
yes. Okay, so Alan, you want to move on to some other comments?
Hey,
Sure.
Alan, before we move on to other other comments, so we have a regular meeting on the last Monday, and the study session is a regular meeting on the second Tuesday. Can I get some clarification? I don't remember going over this during the handbook, Scott, but let's talk about CAC meetings for just 5 seconds. There's a lot of confusion about whether they're a regular meeting, a special meeting, agendized meeting. Do we have a
Mine's
clarification?
cutting out. I don't know about.
Yes, we identified, well, there's also another, there's a CSC handbook, a Citizens Advisory Committee handbook, and we also stipulated in that handbook that the CAC would be complied with the Brown Act. So we would post agendas 72 hours in advance before those meetings.
Okay, but the confusion has always been how many of us can attend the CAC meetings? And can you just clarify that part of it for the handbook?
Right.
Yes, okay, I see what you're saying, clarify, okay.
Good.
Because I know, if 3 of us go and we don't post it, and I know Nalani has to struggle with this, but let's just make sure that that's clear in the CAC handbook now, I guess.
Got it,
Okay.
Just for 2 board members to attend.
right.
And
Got
if
it.
if three
No
go
action
away,
can be taken.
one
Mr. Mosher, did you still have your hand raised for comment?
Yeah, thank you. This may be out of order because I don't know if Alan Burns is going to address them or not. The 2 main points about this I wanted to bring to the board's attention. It's making the handbook before you tonight is making 2 changes relative to your current practice. One of them, if enacted, it will allow members of the public to pull items off the consent calendar, which according to your current agendas, the public cannot do. I, of course, as a member of the public, am in favor of that. The other thing it's doing is reducing the time for public comments from the 4 minutes that the agenda now says it is, down to 3 minutes. I am strongly opposed to that, and I see no reason the board would want to restrict comment. It's not like you get a whole lot of it. And then the final thing I would say, so if the adoption of this is not urgent, and it sounds like some revisions to it are going to be made, among the people you hope will attend your meetings and are therefore impacted it are the members of the CAC. So you might consider inviting them to comment on what they think of these as being appropriate rules of procedure for the board of directors. You obviously don't have to accept their suggestions or comments any more than mine, but since they are members of the public, it might be good to get their reaction. Thank you.
Oh, and Mr. President, I did have some responses to some of the comments that Mr. Mosher made to the handbook itself. I needed a separate piece of paper for that one. And basically, I'm not aware of why if we did reduce it from 4 minutes to 3, but 4 minutes seems appropriate, certainly, unless you have a situation in which you can't get through your meeting that night. So I have no disagreement with that. The other items are the one matter about adding matters to an agenda, and Mr. Mosher added during a meeting. Well, it's more than during a meeting. It's after the notice was posted. So I think we're better off just leaving it the way it is because it covers a broader range than just that. And then he also asked about whether we should have under the conflict of interest and recusal, something about 1099 incompatibility and 1090, which is the contract prohibition. And I don't think those are appropriate for the handbook. I think we will hopefully be aware of those issues long before. We'll have done a lengthy memo on that subject, and we will have that all worked out. This is for the sort of matters that come up on shorter notice, which is when you have a conflict based on some interest you have in your home or something else. So I think it reads okay the way it does. And I think Mr. Mosher did have a good catch on one part where it talks about the subject matter to be disclosed in closed session shall be disclosed to the board member. Well, that's kind of obvious, but I think it was meant to be to the public, because we do have to give certain information to the public about what we're talking about in closed session. So that would totally be appropriate, and we can fix that. And then he had a last item about, he questioned whether disciplinary action could be taken against a board member in closed session. He's absolutely right, and that wasn't the intent. It would never, a board member could never be disciplined in closed session. That's done in front of the public. Only public employees can be, their discipline can be considered in closed session under certain limited circumstances. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. President, I just have one further clarification, Mr. President, and that was what I was talking about earlier. I need some clarification from the board regarding allowing members of the public to request an item be placed on the agenda. As I mentioned earlier, we says 14 working days, which is consistent with what the code says. And I said 14 working days, that's like 3 weeks. Do you want to, are you comfortable with that, or do you want to shorten it down to like nine working days, or nine calendar days, or whatever, 2 weeks? I just need some clarification. If the 14 work days, are you suffice with that, or do you want it shorter in length?
Can I ask a question? Are you saying that they'd like to put an item on the agenda?
Yes. So basically what it's saying, if a member of the public wants to request an item on the agenda, they have to give staff 14 working days notice. So
Have we ever had anybody ask to put something on the agenda?
No, we haven't, that I can recall, but still, that's still quite excessive. It is. I don't know why we came up with working days. Maybe it wasn't error. Maybe we're meant to be calendar days, or maybe if our intent was just 2 weeks. Usually 2 weeks is standard, so that'd be like 10 working days, or 9 for our case because we're closed every Friday. So that'd be more appropriate, I think, is 9 working days in advance. I think it'd be appropriate.
Yeah, I would move to 9 days if the rest of the board agrees.
I think the policy came, the 14 days probably came because of the agenda setting meeting, and then the board meeting, which was probably 20 some days past that. I would like to see it somehow tied to the agenda setting meeting, which is, I think, the first Monday of each month, where the president and staff and council and whatnot meet and decide on the agenda.
I think that's a great idea. I think we need to have the president and the staff review the request before it's put on the agenda, just to make sure that we're doing it the correct way.
Okay.
I agree with Bob. So where would that put us? Would that put us to the 2 week and not the 9 day? Because you guys meet the first Monday of the month, don't you?
Yeah.
But we'd have to say like 9 days prior to the first Monday of the month, something like that.
I would do that, because that way, because you meet every Monday of the month with the president and sometimes the vice president.
Right.
To review the agenda. I think we need to have that in there, because I think that's what we do for the board members also. They have to, if they want something on the agenda, they have to go through the president.
Right.
And all the staff are present, and the attorney and the treasurer, and at the agenda setting meeting.
Okay. That gives me some clarification.
Sounds good.
so you have direct that,
Yes.
or do we need to take action?
As Mr. Mocha mentioned, this is not a dire need you have to adopt it today. If you don't, if you want to listen to Mr. if you want to adhere to Mr. Mosher's request, we can take it to the CAC for their comments, or you can approve it tonight. It's up to you.
I would approve it tonight myself. I don't know what the other board members feel.
Yeah,
Sure.
I agree with Art. We put a lot of work in with the ad hoc committee, and
Mm.
CAC members were at that ad hoc. They've had a chance to review this. I want to address one comment that was made by Mr. Mosher about changing public comment from 4 minutes to 3 minutes. I think 3 minutes is the standard in most municipalities. And I think we went to the 3 minutes to be more in line with other agencies. Isn't that right, Scott?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
But usually, but you know, because we don't have a lot of public comments, 4 minutes, I don't believe that's going to be an issue. I mean, usually I think a lot of cities, like for example, the city of Costa Mesa, you know, they get a lot of public comments, and so they try to limit the within the law how long someone can speak, because there's so many people speaking.
But the public can always request additional time, and I don't
Yeah.
see us ever denying someone extra time if they need it. So I think we need to show some consistency with the 3 minutes, but still give the public a chance to request extra time.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Not only that, but then the directors or the board who's listening to this has the capability to say, well, we'll give you 1 more minute, or just wrap it up now, whatever. That's usually the case after 3 minutes. So,
And now, Jim, with all that said, I'm going to move to adopt resolution 2020-935, the Board of Directors Procedures Handbook in its entirety.
I'll second it.
Further discussion?
That would be with the changes you've directed us to clarify, though.
That's correct.
The second agrees on that also.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Let's move along. Are we ready for the engineer's report? Hello?
That's
Mike?
you, Michael.
Michael's up.
he's very muted.
Yeah, I don't see him on the meeting anymore.
He is on.
Oh, I see, yeah. Oh, he's
Okay,
muted, yeah.
We can always,
Nalani, can you unmute him?
I tried to, but
can always-
he looks like he's frozen, I think. Oh, now he's dropped off.
We can come back to.
We can come back.
we can
You
come
want to
back,
take
Mr. President.
we can
Yeah.
come back.
attorney's reports in the meantime? And
Okay. Treasurer's report. Is Mark here?
Nothing- Yep, nothing to report this evening, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Attorney's report. I think you've given us quite a bit of your knowledge here tonight, but is there anything else?
yeah, I'm afraid there's more coming. We have a relocation, an easement agreement before you for PT Fairway Villas. It's sort of a simple document. It's they're in the construction, they relocated a sewer line from one place to another within their property. And that was all approved by our engineer, Mr. Hamers at the time. And so that's what the agreement says, is basically you get the land back where we used to have an easement, and you give us a new easement where the line is located now. And Mr. Mosher has asked, what's the consideration? And consideration is just what I said, the new easement and the relinquishment of the old easement. And in the law, there was a requirement for a consideration for a contract or land to be transferred. And in the Old English days, a peppercorn was considered sufficient consideration. So this is something more than a peppercorn, but there's definitely consideration for each side in this agreement. And I recommend approval.
Okay, any questions?
Move approval.
Need action on that?
Second.
Second? Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Alan, you've taken up a lot of time tonight, you know.
I'll give you credit in closed session.
Mr. President,
Okay.
Mike Nash is back on the line if you'd like to take the engineer's reports.
I didn't hear that.
Mike Banesh is back online if you'd like to take the engineer's reports at this time.
Is that visible? I guess it would be, yeah.
Yes,
He's
Sure.
working for it.
you just skipped ahead.
Yeah,
on the
put him-
agenda. You can go back.
Yeah, we'll go back to engineers report. Mike?
Yeah. I think I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just waiting on your engineers report for this month.
Yeah, it's receive and file the capital improvement projects report. I just wanted to let you know also that the smoke testing for the fairgrounds, the request for proposals went out last month and they will be opened Wednesday. And also the President Pump Station reconstruction, that bid went out. Our notice inviting bids went out last week or the week before last, and the bids will be opened in September.
Okay, good.
Okay. Very good. Anything else to ask Mike, or Mike, do you have anything else to share with us?
That's it.
Well, okay, evidently that's okay. We're going to local meetings. I went to the border committee, or I didn't go to it. I was, on the internet down in San Diego, and it was like a 3.5 hour or 2.5 hour meeting, and had to do with a lot of challenging plans for Sandag, and used as an example for other groups. Vision, they're big on transportation, and they're being very active on it too. They have a bold new operating system they're going to introduce next week, and they're using a method called sprint planning, which is it's a different type of planning, and they put things on the front burner and really get stuff done faster. So that was about it for that. Who's Bob, are you up? Can you report?
SARFA. There was
Yeah, sorry.
up with SARFA. There was no meeting for SARFA this month. And I attached all the meetings I did to my meetings that I attended. So I gave a written review like we discussed doing.
Hello? Hello?
You're muted, Scott.
Thank you. We're on item number 3, Independent Special Districts of Orange County, ISDOC, for Secretary Schaefer.
Oh, okay. ISDOC mainly had talked about what was going on, that it's time for elections, and we're trying to decide whether to do a slate or to have just individuals just step up to the plate and say they want to be on this committee and that. So what we're doing right now is the ISDOC will be having a meeting. Let's see, when is it? It's in, it is September 1st. And at that meeting, we will see how people voted from different agencies. If they have enough people that want to be on the slate, or, you know, maybe we're not getting into the slate that much. We're just trying to see how many people want different seats. And then that way they'll see if it's worthwhile to even go for a slate. So that was the big issue right then, to talk on that mostly. And then just regular reports from different people on what was going on, and about our last general meeting that we had on Zoom, that was supposed to be a luncheon, and that our supervisor came to. We talked on that, and how it was well attended, even though it was a Zoom. So that was about it on this stuff.
Can I add to that a little bit, Arlene?
Sure.
They also had a letters of support for SB 1386 and HR 7073, which I think we should look, you know, they want to support it. So I think we should look into that.
Yes, yes.
And then I was kind of curious, the financial report, they have a balance of $12,964, which is pretty significant balance.
Right. And they're trying to decide what to do with it, whether to give one free lunch a time, or say maybe the membership 1 year. So nothing has come up on that yet because of this getting into the election war.
I would say reduce the membership fee.
That's what I think too, but we'll see.
Okay.
Or
Hopefully.
just so that you know why that balance is so high. You know, the LAFCO dues were greatly reduced. Same with the OCOG dues. So
Right.
that money's just kind of stockpiled and should be done to relieve dues, I think, like you said.
Yeah, I think so too.
True.
They didn't mention that part of it. I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah, and it's perfect timing with all the people who are having problems financially in different agencies. You know, not everybody is well strapped or making what they need as their quota. So this would be perfect timing. So anyway, that's that. And let's see what else. As far as CSDA goes, on the 6th, we had a meeting with AEC that Mike chairs, so I'll leave that alone so he can talk on that if he wants. And then Waco meeting was at 7:30 on August 7th. And at that time, I don't know, was everyone else there too?
Yes, I was.
Okay. I have my notes here and I don't know, they're not right here. Yeah. Did you want to add something on Waco?
I could add something. Kathy Green gave a report, a legislative update on AB 3030, which is to protect 30% of the ocean and land in California. So I'd like to learn a little bit more about that.
Yes. Yeah, that was a good one. That's true. And then we're, let's see, what else was it? We're talking, CSDA is talking a lot about what's going on Prop 15 versus Prop 19. And you really have to look at those to get an idea. And CSDA is going to come out with the information. We just had it at our board meeting this morning. And truthfully, what we decided is just what was done before, that we're not going to take a watch. We're going to take a watch on it. We're not going to take sides, because there's a lot to that when you start reading about what it does for financially to help the situation, and what it does as far as if you're older and you want to leave your home to somebody. You can't do that on 19. It's a little different. You'd have to say that person that you're leaving the home to must turn around and be a rental, live in that home. And if they're not living in the home, then you can't do that. And some people feel, you know, that they want to do this, you know, that they want to stay in that home and be able to keep it at the price that they want the person to have the capability of financing. So anyway, it deals too with Prop 13 on Prop 15. So I'll have more to tell you on this, or you can just even look at your computer and you'll see the nays and the people that feel a different way. So far, it's going just a watch. We're just saying we're not going to take sides because there's good and bad in the whole thing as you start reading on it. Because they thought that the schools were going to get a lot more money for 15, and they're not going to get as much as they thought. And so at the same time, it split the tax. So, you know, so we'll see what happens on that. And see what else I had. Well, we had our study session. Let's see. Well, there was we had a ledge meeting on the 14th of August, which is last Friday. And we went over all the different bills, and it took probably a little over half a day to do this. But we went over the bills, and it's almost time that the legislators are about ready for session. So, you know, they want to get out, and we're trying to, you know, uphold these bills and get them taken care of. So we'll see what happens. And that's about it for now.
Okay, Mike, do you have anything?
Yeah, just our board meeting is this week, Wednesday and Thursday, so I'll have a better report next month for you, Jim. I do want to convey to everybody that we had our going away Zoom meeting for Dennis Timoney a couple weeks ago, and he also wanted to express to me and to let you all know how much he appreciated the resolution, and Scott put him on the spot, made him feel like he was leaving because of an issue with us, but we know better than that, don't we, Scott?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, Dennis said to thank you everybody for their kind words, and that's it.
Okay. Anybody else have any thing to contribute?
I went to the LAFCO meeting, or I went to the Zoom meeting, and
oh wow,
there was a lot of talk about pending legislation where there are a lot of very inefficient and poorly operated and poorly financed water districts, mainly up in the Central Valley, and the LAFCOs there have not done anything about it. So the legislature is working on the state law to identify those and maybe group them, and then let LAFCO do the boundary changes and whatnot. And there was a long discussion. Mesa, as a big water agency, was initially in favor of doing this. Director Fissler at the meeting said, you know, he no longer supported it. And the problem was, you know, the commissioners were concerned about the number of customers or hookups that a water district has that would be considered for this. And there are a number of smaller water districts in Orange County that at least would be considered. But I believe the commissioners know, you know, that nothing like that is going to be forced upon Orange County by the legislature or the committee or the staff that's doing the evaluation. There's not a problem with that in Orange County. There's a lot of reasons why the LAFCOs are ineffective and don't make any movement in this regard, even for poorly administered water districts. So that was the main item of discussion. And then they also had a long discussion. They have a staff member. They have a staff of 5 at LAFCO. One of them is leaving or has left and is needing to be replaced. And they were very concerned with the amount of money that it was going to cost. So they negotiated with the headhunter to take on some of the responsibilities. And then that, that was approved by the commission in a reduced form. Instead of $18,000, it was reduced down to $10,000. And it was an interesting meeting.
Hey, Jim, I have one other meeting to report on.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
I had nothing better to do on my birthday on the 17th, so I attended a webinar. You know, we get these emails from different organizations, and there was a webinar from the Institute for Local Government, and it had to do with disaster preparedness for special districts. And the keynote speaker was Lucy Jones, the earthquake lady, and very interesting. I mean, a lot of talk about what's in store and how we're prepared. And the gist of it is Orange County's in pretty good shape, but if there's a major situation, whether it be an earthquake, fires or whatever, there could be some challenges. So we get these notifications on these webinars quite a bit. And I found this one to be really good. So would recommend it if it comes up again.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else have a comment? Any old business? Any new business? Oral communications and director comments.
Yeah, Jim, I'd like to make one, President. I'd like to make one comment. The problem with Zoom meetings is that the response from individuals, let's say Jim, you're leading the pledge, and we are trying to follow you. There's a delay in the response from individuals. I run into this in the comedy shows. There are separate delays. So a second person chimes in, and then there's a further delay, and so pretty soon it's an echo. So I think we ought to consider or try to address how to overcome this. I think we want to do the pledge, and it could be that we'll just have somebody do it, or something. Somehow it can be done, but having us all join in, it's not working correctly yet.
I don't think we're the Lone Ranger, but you're right.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else? If not, it's meeting adjourned.
No, we're going to closed session, Mr. President.
Closed session.
Oh, I thought we did that. I guess not. Okay, closed session. We're going out of the session into closed session.
Alana, you going to tell us how to do it?
Discuss anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code 54956.91 case. The facts are available of the threat in a communication that's identified, and that's available for the public that might wish to look at it.
Judy's still here.
Yes, I haven't moved you into your own room yet. Give me 1 second and we'll do that.
Okay.
Didn't mean to be a
No, that's-
problem.
You're not a problem. It's our problem.
No.
Mike, when was your birthday?
August 17th.
August what?
17.
We share a birthday, buddy. How did we not know that?
I didn't know that, really.
Yeah, us, the two of us and Davy Crockett.
And
Wow.
you know what? One other famous person,
There's three giants right there.
Mae West.
Mae West?
Mae West was August 17th.
Wow.
And if you forget that, that's a combination lock on Lion's shed.
Good to know.
By the way, Judy, you need to leave our meeting.
Okay, I'll just go home.
Yeah.
No, I will push you into your room. Give me 1 second. Here you
We're
go.
not kicking you out, but we are.
Oh, well, yeah. we're done anyway, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, nice seeing you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Yes.
Bobby,
Okay.
couldn't you do something with, Mae West and Davy Crockett? Isn't there a joke there?
Oh, yeah.
Probably not one that's appropriate.
Maybe not.
I was just gonna say, I knew Mike would know that.
Okay, Alan,
Okay.
take over the show.
We have to join?
Yes,
Yeah.
please
Yep.
join the meeting. Click on join the room. Oops.
So.
Yep,
Join,
click
break
on
that
join. There you
something.
are. Go ahead and click on join.
Hey, Nolani, I'm back. I think we're coming back.
All right, I'll close the room out.
So they're coming back. Hopefully I hit the right button.
Yep, you did.
Well,
And
I
now
hope everyone else did.
it's okay. Don't worry. It's gonna close everybody out and everybody back
Yeah,
in.
we're
Here
coming
they
back.
come.
And we're all
Now
back.
we're back in the real world.
There we are. Good job, friends.
This is new, Nolani. I like it.
Thank you. I'm glad that it went smoothly. We practiced it all day yesterday just to make sure.
It
I couldn't
worked.
have anybody else in the public being in the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
very-
we're gonna close the active session and close the
We're gonna reconvene.
Reconvene open
we're gonna
session
close everything.
and announce that no action was taken in closed session. No
And
reportable
action
action.
taken in closed session. Praise the Lord.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good job, Val.
All right, good
Good
night.
job.
Good
Good
night.
job.
Thank you.